We're live.
And we're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Podwans with the Voices of Arda. As you can see, we have a fully stacked panel to talk about the finale of Season 2. I'm very excited to talk about this. I have had a blast the past 6 weeks. Is this what it was? 6 weeks in total?
Should have been 8.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay. Let's not ruin the fun yet. But I've had an incredible time. Not only watching the show, but having the opportunity to talk to everyone that's been on the panels so far. And we have new faces on this week. We'll get to everyone here very quickly. Callie, do you want to introduce everyone for us?
Sure. All right. So we have Luke, who is up there. And so I don't know if everyone's in the corner for me. Let me go to the YouTube channel and see if I'm just... Yeah. So we've got Luke, Jedi Master X, who is from the Podwans podcast, and he's been doing our reaction parties, but he's joining us tonight for a discussion. Then we have Chase, Forward Into the Black, who has been doing our discussions and joined our watch party yesterday. Also Pod1, so that is awesome. We have Nick, who is Fornost42. That's how you find him online. And then we have Belmont, who is Pete, and he's probably a familiar face. He's been here with us every week for the past 6 weeks, twice a week, actually. He's been doing great. And so he's been helping us out with our watch parties and our discussions. We have Kelly, the middle page, and she is joining us for the first time, I think, this season. Okay, all right. Welcome. Very excited to have new people. We have Nick, who is ND Wise Guy, and he said something at the beginning of the stream that I'm not going to repeat, but hopefully he will change his mind by the end of the stream. And he will be more of a Tolkien guy. Then we have Miranda, who's online is Ex-Elizabeth here. I don't know why I struggle a lot with that one, but yeah, she does Tolkien Tuesdays. They're amazing. They have Kai K with the amazing red hair down there in the corner, and she is joining us. She has been here before, so you might recognize her face. And we have Airplane Max, as well with us. So
hello,
Max.
His first name's Airplane. Max.
Yep, Max is my middle name.
Maximum.
Oh right, I'm so sorry. I was making
Maximum
a mistake.
Airplane.
My full name is
Maximum
Airplane Max. Yeah, Airplane Max Boeing. That's my full name.
Are you on strike with yourself right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been on strike with
awkward at
myself
home.
for 33 years, dude. It's rough.
No end in sight.
No.
Oh shit! I love this so much already. I do. Hey, by the way, there is no curse thing. By the way, Chase. So
yeah, you already lost $100 last night.
Yeah,
so
man.
Yeah.
don't remind me. I am so upset about that. Actually,
You're so close too. Oh man.
We're not.
But yeah, no. So I'm Callie Cosplay, and this is, if you're watching on Voices of Arda, you're watching it through our channel. If you're watching it through Podwan's podcast, you're seeing it through their YouTube. And this is a little bit bittersweet because it's our last, collab stream of the season of Rings of Power, but hopefully not the last at all. So we will probably be working together again to give you more great content in the future.
Absolutely.
So how about that finale, right? What a show.
I think maybe let's just get a general consensus, like a one sentence feeling of not the season, just the finale.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of go in location by location. A bunch of people have a lot of stuff they want to weigh in on with different themes, different people. We'll be going through all of the locations that we kind of explored in season 2. But Matt, let's go reverse. Max, one sentence. How do you feel about the finale of season 2, episode 8?
I thought it was pretty cool.
That's a great sentence. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Max is like, I like the goop.
There was good goop. This
was-
season did have a lot of good goop.
Yeah, but we're just talking the finale. There was only one speck of goop on Sauron's cheek, so I could have gone for a little bit more. But
More goop. Okay, it was
Okay.
cool, but needed more goop.
more
Understood.
goop.
And gooping it.
That's very
Kaya.
viscous scoop, though.
Kyle, one sentence. How did you feel about the finale?
The Yelp review was 8.5.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Miranda.
I am happy with how they left things in a place to set up the start of next season.
Nice. Other Nick.
I thought it was great. I thought it was the most cinematic in scope of the episodes this season.
I agree. I think it was the best shot episode. Kelly.
I loved it. I thought it was great. It was moving in all the right parts, emotional, and just entertaining. It was good.
All right. And Pete.
I liked it. It was cool. I mean, it was a nice finale.
You can be honest, Pete. You can be honest here.
Honestly, I really enjoyed how they kind of wrapped things up. Though there's some stuff that felt a bit disjointed. I will say this: I felt like the finale was hurt the most by the time compression than anything else in the series, and that's just me. I loved everything about it. I give the whole series like a 8.5 out of 10. When I I really didn't like season 1. I gave like a 7, 6, 7, 6, 7. I don't know. So.
All right. Fair. We'll be able to dive deeper later. But Callie, one sentence. How did you feel about the finale?
I was more satisfied than I expected to be. I know this is a colon semicolon sentence. And I felt like they wrapped up more than I thought they did, and they did leave it in a satisfying place. I was very worried.
Good. I enjoyed that. That was grammatically correct.
Appreciate.
Nick.
I could hear the punctuation.
Yes.
I am satisfied, optimistic, but a little confused.
Okay. I am gonna say that
Bastard.
I really liked the finale. I had a great time. I do feel like it didn't feel like a season finale at points, but we'll get into that later. And finally, Luke, one sentence. How did you feel about the finale?
I fucking loved it. I'll come out and say it. I fucking loved it. It was fun.
Great. I love it. I'm
Period. It was a run-on sentence, and then I did a period at the end.
Perfect. You know, periods don't negate run-on sentences, but that's okay.
You just like James Joyce. It's okay.
I should have done it in a Tolkienian way, but I couldn't think of anything. I'm not too smart at that. I will
It's
admit
okay.
that.
It's okay.
But anyway,
We're learning. All right. I guess let's jump into it with the locations. Kelly, do we want to just go in order, or is there?
Yeah, well, the episode started off real strong with us in Khazad-dûm. Max and Chase and Kaya, I think, particularly have some thoughts on that. So why don't you guys start off our discussion?
Who wants to go first?
Not
you
me.
go first. I go first.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to say I have a lot to say, but there was something that for me was so interesting to watch from season 1 until this finale in season 2 was the path of King Durin III. And just from this very strong but very stubborn king in season 1, to where we see him, ripping off the. Is there a word for that chest piece that was around Prince Durin?
Ice.
Ice,
Drip.
the drip. When King Durin ripped that drip, that was such a powerful moment in the show overall. And then he gets the ring, and we see that corruption, and it just gets worse and worse and worse in season 2. And then when the Balrog comes, when he exposes all the mithril, first of all, oh my god, the mithril was so gorgeous in that. Oh my god.
Yes.
And when the thing that I thought was so interesting that it tied back to the previous episode is when Prince Doran is giving the speech to all of the dwarves in Khazad-dûm, and he has the line, "The only thing that is more important than this mountain is dwarven loyalty," and King Doran removes the ring while saying, I wasn't letting you win. You were getting stronger each time, and pulls the ring off on his own volition. And it proves that, like, it's 100% right. The only thing stronger than the mountain, the only thing stronger than Sauron's corruption in the ring is that dwarven loyalty. And King Doran shows us that in that moment. And it's just like, it was so bittersweet. It was heartbreaking. It was emotional. It was just such a loving moment between father and son that I was just like, oh, and then just the shot of him jumping with the axe at the Balrog, and he hit it, and that like supernova goes off. It was just, every bit of that intro was just beautiful. Like, if that's where they left it and rolled the credits, I would have been like, all right, hell yeah, I'm good.
It would be amazing to see that in cinema.
Yes, I would
imagine
love to
the
see
people
this.
who got to see the finales in theater. Oh, wow!
But that's my gushing on that whole sequence. I'll leave it to you two to kind of further in that. If there's any lore there that you want to explore, because I don't know any of the lore.
I mean, I'm not a dwarven expert by any stretch, but I did go into the season. You know, in the trailer there was like the teaser of the Balrog kind of raging, and I was worried that they were gonna kind of expedite the fall of Khazad-dûm into this season, and I'm very glad that they didn't. I'm interested to see where the dwarven storyline kind of continues now that Eregion's out of the picture. Are they gonna keep going for more Mithril? Like, I don't know. And then you see behind Durin the Fourth, there's like the table full of rings, all 7 dwarf rings, so they still got to divvy those out. Or Durin puts on all 7 and turns into Mecha Durin, like a suit of Gundam, like a Gundam suit.
Yes.
That could happen. Or, anyways, no. There was
I can't unsee a Gundam Durin anymore.
Their armor could, maybe it's not made of mithril, maybe it's made out of Gundanium. Like, who knows?
It could be. They didn't say it wasn't.
It's true.
No, and then they kind of left that story kind of hanging on a pivot with the mention of Durin's brother, which is, I think this is the first we've heard of Durin having a brother. And I was talking to Pete. I was like, "Do you think his brother's Durin? Maybe he has twin brothers."
That's
Durin,
what I was,
and that's Durin 5th and the 6th, and then now we do get the fall because Durin the 6th was supposed to be the king during the fall of Khazad-dûm. Anyways, I'm rambling. So somebody smarter than me should go.
No, but that was my concern too. Whenever I saw the Balrog, when I first saw it in the trailer, I'm not gonna lie, I got like a stick up my ass about it because I was just like, this is too early to be seeing the Balrog. And then going off of what Chase said, the verbiage, what they say is absolutely beautiful. Like the scene, the meaning behind it itself is beautiful, is so meaningful. Like as a parent, it makes you want to tear up, not to be cliche or whatever. And then the shot itself is absolutely beautiful. But then you see that Durin the Fourth sees the Balrog, Disa sees it, Narvi sees it. What's going to happen after this? Because like if they see it, they're really going to stay for 2 more generations just to be like, oh, there's this thing under here, but we're only going to tell like the line of royalty, kind of like that whole thing in
House of the Dragon.
House of Dragon. Yep. Where it's like this family secret no one else can know, but the heir to the throne, like this big giant fiery monster is living right under us.
I do like that nobody brought it up. Like when you see it later, like none of them were like, "Hey guys, that was kind of crazy, right?" Like,
You saw that, right? That thing was like on fire. Like, no.
Also, I was even more surprised when the dwarves showed up to Eregion because I was like, "Damn, y'all saw that and still were like, yeah, I guess we'll still send priests." Like,
they straight up were like, you know what? Durin, just stay back. We got this, bro.
Yeah,
we got this.
I know.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah,
saw,
Narvi's like, do it in his morning. No, he's bugged out. Like,
Yeah.
like what?
Like the fact that Narvi didn't just run up to Elrond and be like, "You will have no idea what I just saw."
Bro, you will
a
have
demon
no
of the ancient
fucking
world.
idea.
They could have used another line.
Oh my god.
Like
it
I
was
swear I took something earlier.
No, I think that was that, and then a lot of people didn't like Durin the Third jumping and doing that. Like it was a little silly, but I
A little
felt
hop and skip. I liked it.
dude, it was legit. I
It's
was
like crazy
losing my
legs are
goddamn
just splayed
mind.
everywhere, though.
I was like, let's go.
Yes, I was the same way. Like that's what I was saying. Like the cinematic nature of that shot, like right off the kick, just gave such a grander scale.
Yeah, I
to this episode.
did. No, it did.
And
I-
I'm with you, Callie. I would have loved to have seen that on a movie screen because that shot alone would have been perfect.
I do just want to call out this commenter in the chat because I didn't think anyone else in the world except for knew about Aura Battler Dunbine, and Aura Battler Durin is such a good reference. No one else probably knows what that is,
No
but
idea.
God, that is so good to me. That is like an old
You're
80s
connecting
mecha
with our
anime.
viewers, Chase. Thank you. That is
It's an old
wonderful.
80s anime, like mecha anime. And I was like, wow, that is a pull from the chat.
What is it called? What is it called?
Aura Battler Dunbine.
Nah, I've never heard of that.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
What? The
No,
What?
no, exactly.
Aura Battler Dunbine wasn't on my Rings of Power bingo card.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
It's not.
I'm the only one that gets that one.
But yeah, so we finished that, and that is crazy enough. Just the opening scene, like that, all happens right before the the title sequence. So you're just kind of left being like, what? But how do you guys feel about how they left the dwarves and what they're setting them up to do in the next season?
Well, I'm curious more than anything. I liked I thought the Dwarven storyline throughout this season. I know we're just about that, but I think it was good. I think it culminated in a good point in episode 8, and I'm just curious to see where they kind of take it from here, because I don't really know what they're gonna do.
I really wish they would have left that Balrog out. Like they could have
Yeah.
gotten so much more creative and made it Durin the Third's death like so much more in depth. I feel like they almost kind of cheapened it, the way Peter Jackson cheapened the battle at Pelennor Fields with the Oathbreakers. So
Bold,
Would you have
bold take,
rather,
but I don't necessarily disagree with you.
yeah, if Durin the Third died at the Battle of Eregion, do you think that would have been more moving in a way?
I think it would depend on how.
Yeah.
Like who would he be fighting? Like if it was just some petty dwarf like stabbing him in the neck, no. It would have to be something more epic. Like maybe his greed getting to him in trying to mine the Mithril, and instead of the Balrog making the thing come in, it's just him like trying to mine it for more. And then it's the greed killing him.
Ooh, that is pretty tragic, though. I like that a lot, Kaya. But I got to see a freaking dwarf jump in the middle of there doing anime fucking explosion. That's fucking sweet.
It was like,
Yeah,
All
that
right.
was really cool.
rule of cool sometimes has to apply.
Yeah. I mean,
It was a
good.
beautiful shot, and I'm counting down the days until we see a tattoo of that shot on Instagram.
oh, absolutely.
Oh,
That's
I'm
gotta
waiting
happen.
for it. Like I give it at least 5 months.
is I guess a question I would have kind of to address they all kind of forgot about the Balrog. Is there a lore reason why we couldn't see Khazad-dûm go against the Balrog and think they defeated it and it just remains dormant for a number of years? Is there a lore contradiction there or no?
I mean,
I've
any one of us could take this. I really want
I've talked a lot.
Meg.
We're all gonna get to talk a
it's,
lot,
It's
but
because it doesn't happen till like the mid Third Age. It's an event that, like, let's put it this way. One of the main reasons why Eregion is even established as an elven realm around 750 is because they want to be in close proximity to the mines of the mithril mines with Khazad-dûm, and that's how they kind of establish a relationship with them. They don't really show it as well as they should in the show. They have like kind of like the doors of Durin as well as the dwarven wall being built for Ost-in-Ethil, or what is Ost-in-Ethil, Eregion. But it's an event that doesn't really occur till like like I said, 1980 of the Third Age, and it's this big sundering between the elvish people of both the Greenwood, Lothlorien, as well as like the dwarves being run out of Khazad-dûm practically. And it feels a little rushed, I think, is the main concern.
Okay, that's totally fair, because that's just like off the top of my head, that's how they would get the Balrog out of there for it to happen again, I guess, in the Fellowship of the Ring. But yeah, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
My theory before
like-
the season started was going to be the Stone Singers like sung it to sleep, Luthien
Oh,
style.
Oh,
You know.
that would have been sick.
Like it.
Yeah, I think they're gonna try to use the rings maybe to somehow defeat the Balrog or like bring Khazad-dûm back to its glory. Just like they saw it work in Linden, so they're gonna try to do it for Khazad-dûm somehow.
I could see that. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if we were talking about moving the timeline back a little bit. Obviously what Pete was saying, the condensing of the timeline, which is seems to be a big criticism of the show as a whole. But it does push that timeline back then, if that is the case. That could be a way that they could do it. But how, like, I know obviously the lore is kind of the lore. How do we feel like for that explanation? Would we be okay with that? Would that be a good enough explanation for
I
us?
still don't think it would make much sense. I mean, for Duden to try and convince them to do it that way, yeah, but I feel like he would also have Disa in his ear, being the character that she's been built up to be. If she'd be like, "Are you crazy? No,
Yeah.
we need to
It would-
leave."
It'd be like a rehashing of kind of what we just saw of like, oh, the ring is guiding me, but it's really destroying our kingdom.
Yeah.
But I just
So you
I-
think
what
like
I can't
Disa would
understand-
end up accepting the ring?
I don't know. That's what I'm having the most trouble with is given the how they've treated the rings, especially with the Dwarven rings and Durin and Disa's opinion of them. How are they then going to divvy up these 7 rings? And is the ring going to go to his brother? I don't know.
Yeah. But I also kind of like Max's idea as well. Like them singing using the voices, because then it's Disa saying, "Hey, we can control this." Because they've lost, like, a lot of the singers have lost their ability or have
I thought
looked
you were gonna
at
talk about the mecha thing. All right. No.
What mecha?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the idea was
You're like, that's a good idea,
Mecha
Max.
Durin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that too. I think that would be legit. Just Mighty Morphin Power Ranger dwarves, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only reason I had that idea was because Luthien sung Morgoth to sleep, and I was like, well, maybe they'll
Well,
do like a song sleep thing.
which
but
would make
that- I-
sense because it's
I don't know.
which would make sense because it's a creature of Morgoth.
Right.
So I
but-
mean, it could work.
Anybody's susceptible to a lullaby, Luke. Everybody.
True.
Okay, there we go. I mean, hey, it could work.
How do you guys
all
feel
right.
about them using the Jackson trilogy image of the
Mm.
Balrog? Like, do you wish that they had shown
Horribly.
it different?
I mean, considering who their art director is,
True.
I don't. I think it's okay. It's pretty on brand. And I've kind of accepted that, where I know why they hired John Howe. Being that him and Alan Lee's artwork is so influential with Peter Jackson's movies. Do I wish I got to see a different version? Absolutely, because it's like just rehashing the same thing. We all know why they did it. It's to get movie fans interested in the show. And I love John Howe's art. I love Alan Lee's, but
There's other Tolkien artists. There's other interpretations. It would have been nice to
Yeah.
see that be different.
Get whoever's
take
been
some
doing those
risks, you
magic
know?
cards to do
Yep.
to do some of the new
That'd
Yeah.
be cool. That,
feature
but
art.
I need this show to take some risks. I don't be scared to. It's like Peter Jackson's trilogy took some risks. Why not do the same thing? Stop kind of forcing yourself into this box with the movies and trilogy.
Or
That's
they could have
what-
used
The-
They could have used Balrog from Street Fighter 2. I think that would have also been.
Well, I mean, that depends, because which version you talking about, USA or Japanese? It
Hey.
matters.
Oh.
It matters.
Yeah, that's fair.
Shout out TJ in the chat. Give me a humanoid Balrog. Yes,
Yes.
that is what I want to see. The Easton Press end page has an image of it that looks really wacky, but like that's the direction I envision the Balrog, like more demonic in like a super historical sense, not like horns and forked tail and that sort of stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I don't know if anyone else can hear it, but I think Kelly has like a fan going or something that I can hear.
I think it's the computer fan, though.
Okay.
Maybe it's my hair brushing against.
No, it's
No.
I think, does your headphones have like a mic like setting or input? Because right now it's coming through your laptop, and
Ooh,
it's
that
using
might
like
be
your
it.
laptop. So
That
it's
might
hearing
be it.
it's the fan from your laptop when it heats up when you start talking.
That's what it is. Nope, that's what it
See,
is.
I was worried it was me.
I went through. I went through everyone and muted everyone one by one, and then so I'm not singling you out. Like I bet it's Kelly.
Like, oh, no.
Chase was like, "All right, where is this coming from?"
How do I fix it? Or I can just mute myself and then unmute myself when I talk.
Yeah, that's. I mean, whatever way you want to do it, that's completely fine.
I mean,
Or would it be
normally,
better if I took off my
are your
headphones?
Bluetooth to your computer?
Mm-hmm.
If you go into your settings, you can change the mic settings to be on your Bluetooth.
There you go.
Just do
There
both
you
of
go.
them.
But while Kelly does that, let's. Are we kind of done with dwarves?
I think it's time to talk about Rune. I
Oh.
always purposefully overpronounce that because it's funny to me. But yes, Rune. Where did we kind of started with Miranda? Do you want to talk about how we started off in the Rune scenes?
Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts about Mr. Dark Wizard. I was like, this whole season until episode 8, I was satisfied with not knowing who he was because I kind of assumed that it was just going to be ambiguous just because of, not being able to use certain names for certain wizards and all that good stuff. But the conversation that he had with the stranger, I found really interesting, like from a lore sense of like, it made it more confusing for me trying to like, okay, now I do want to know who this wizard is. And the conversation they're having is not making it easier for me to determine who this wizard is. And I've had like conversations with Max and Pete about how there are a lot of like visual signs that make it seem like it's like leaning in a Saruman direction, but us talking about how we don't want it to be leaning in a Saruman direction. But yeah, I thought that the conversation they had was interesting. Him trying to kind of show the connection from before they came to Middle Earth, but not necessarily in a way that gives us any information on who he might be.
I will add on that. I'm pretty sure that JD and like the showrunners have come out and said that is not Saruman. Am I incorrect for saying that? I saw a post.
Didn't they say the same thing about the stranger that it might not be Gandalf?
Oh.
Like I don't
That's
Well, there's just
fair.
You're gonna hide that.
misleading
That's
us.
very fair because I kind of agree. Like it's his vibe is very much Saruman.
Yeah.
Look at him.
The
It's
way
like,
he
like,
speaks,
come
is
on.
bro,
Saruman.
what are you doing?
Friend.
What are you
The way
doing
he,
here?
the way he speaks, the way he like delivers his lines, I was like, oh, okay, it's Saruman. Never mind.
Yeah.
If we meet Radagast next season, it's Saruman. I'll just say.
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's a good tell for sure. What I didn't like about that, just to jump in briefly, is once again, like they kind of did this to Galadriel last season. Like, if it isn't Saruman, then he just looks dumber when you get to the reveal of Saruman in the story of the Lord of the Rings. Like, he's just seeing it happen again. Or if it is Saruman, it's like, why did you ever trust him then? Why would you go to him and get captured by the like? They're
Oh, Manway doesn't know what evil is. They forgave Morgoth. They're
That's
like, dude,
true.
chill.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
just hang out here. It's like, don't worry, it's been a few ages. We like you again.
After this show, I will forgive Sauron for anything. Like,
yeah,
Sauron can do no wrong. I don't care what anyone says.
I always
don't
just
think
look
they're gonna
directly at
make
Kaya
Sauron.
when anyone talks about Sauron now. Yeah. Look at that
Yeah, I'm
simpy
curious-
face.
I am the driver of the Sauron bus here.
I'm
no.
I was just gonna say, I'm curious if we're even gonna see more of that wizard going forward. Like, or if it was just an ambiguous character to be some sort of catalyst in Rune, and now that the stranger is leaving Rune, like maybe we're done with him. Like I could see that happening too.
He did.
Do you want to hear my theory?
I do.
Sorry,
Yes.
Kelly.
The
Yeah.
Dark Wizard somehow has Celeborn.
Oh.
Whoa.
That's what
Whoa.
Celeborn.
All
Whoa. What's
right.
he doing?
Can you
Whoa.
expand?
Kelly.
That's it. That's all I've got. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
That
But
is
I'm sure
pretty
between
good.
all of us, we could.
Could you imagine? That's going to keep me up tonight.
I mean,
Starting back at the start. Oh my gosh.
I feel like they're gonna bring him back, the Dark Wizard thing. I think that's where the Gandalf story is gonna go. I am of the thought that I hope it's not Saruman. I didn't want the stranger to be Gandalf, but it's fine. It's like, okay, well, it's Gandalf. I kind of accepted it was Gandalf a long time ago, but even till like they said his name, I was like, it still might not be.
Right.
I was in big denial about it.
Again,
And
the
so-
Grand Elf. That's not him.
the one thing that gives me hope about the Dark Wizard not being Saruman is that when he's speaking to the stranger in episode 8, sorry, he does mention that there's 5 in the order, right? And so like they've acknowledged that there's 5, so they could just, even if they don't have rights to Alatar and Palando, they could just
True.
make up a name. I can make up a name right now and call him Steve. I don't care. Steve the Dark Wizard.
Steven the
Yeah.
Wizard. Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Call
You've
Paul
got-
and
you've got
Alan.
Tom the
And-
wizard. So what's wrong with Steve?
Yeah, my only issue with like Saruman showing up right now is that like he should, like other people have said, he shouldn't be bad and then be good
Yeah.
and then be bad again. That seems silly
Yeah.
to me. But
I think it works as long as Steve from Blue's Clues plays Steve the Wizard.
Hey, there you go.
that's a good idea. Steve Burns follows me on Instagram. I'll DM him.
That's a cult icon right there.
There you go.
That is a cold icon.
Okay.
But it did seem like they were trying to make the Dark Wizard misunderstood. Like he's like, I'm not actually evil. You people just think I am. But so
Yeah.
that again to me was like, oh, okay, his methods are just
It's a little
Yeah.
messy.
Evil.
Okay?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
Everything
you
about
saw the
it is
stranger
evil.
tossing people with the sandstorm, and you know we were
Yeah.
okay with that because they survived.
Eating hobbits
You
everywhere.
know?
Gandalf will just have to separate the art from the artist at this point. That's what it's gonna be.
I wish Kierdan could do that, but he can't.
Kai, what are your thoughts on the stranger rune?
The stranger, I mean, do you mean like the stranger or the Dark Wizard?
But yeah, the Gandalf rune,
So like
Dark Wizard thing. What's
one of the things that the Dark Wizard says to him is like, you convinced me to come over here. And in my head, I'm like, that sounds familiar. So like I was reading all through the Silmarillion and the appendices and the Unfinished Tales today to see if there was something in the books that says that, because in my head, that like, it just gives Sauron vibes for some reason. Because for some reason, I remember reading, hearing, seeing it somewhere that is what happened. I don't know where, but I couldn't
Are
find
you
it.
remembering like that Gandalf convinced him to like take the #1 spot?
Yeah, I remember. It wasn't like Gandalf. It was like Elorian convinced one of the Istari to come. Like he had to talk him into doing it, and I can't for the life of me remember where. But then when he said it, it like pinged in my head, and I was like, interesting.
Yeah,
Wasn't it-
that's the part that made me confused, because for the entirety of the show, I was convinced that the stranger was
Someone in
Gandalf.
the chat just said that one of the blue wizards had Orme convince the other
Yeah,
blue.
that's what I was gonna say. When they had that conversation, when he said, "You convinced me to come," that's what made me suddenly think like, wait, that's very blue wizard vibe, because one
Yeah,
of the
that
blue
had to be
wizards
him.
was sent, and then he brought the other blue wizard with him. And so I was like, now I'm confused because I was for sure it was the stranger was Gandalf and that this other guy was ambiguous. So that did like ping my mind of like, what does that mean?
So then maybe the Dark Wizard is confusing Gandalf with the other blue. Like maybe they don't recognize each other in their physical form. They just recognize it in their Valar.
Okay, wait. That may be what it is, because the hermits in season 1 thought he was not. Well, they thought he was Sauron.
Yeah.
But they didn't know who he was. So neither potentially does the Dark Wizard.
Yeah, maybe he thinks he's the other blue wizard. I like that.
Yeah.
No, nobody suggested it. He could be Radagast.
I don't think he's
Evil
that.
He's too
Radagast?
sinister.
All of us are just like, nah.
Nah, he's too
No, because
serious,
then
man.
instead of the acolyte turning into moths, it would have been like birds or something.
No, I'm just saying it'd be funny to watch him be all
Rabbits,
serious and
basketball
scary
rabbit.
and turning into like, I guess I actually like rabbits. Like maybe he's just never seen a rabbit, you know? And then he sees a rabbit. He's like, actually, this evil stuff sucks. Like these rabbits are good.
I'm going to change everything about myself.
I met a hedgehog. He was so cool.
So, like,
Named Sebastian.
He just
nature
runs
is
into that
awesome.
tortoise that we saw at the beginning of the rune scene. Is like, hey, buddy, what's up?
Also,
We knew he was important.
I pulled Unfinished Tales off the shelf. There's another thing that is related to Saruman. He's the reason Radagast came, because Yavanna begged him to do that.
See, that was one of the things that I had read earlier, but then I was like, well, Yavanna begs him. No one
Yeah.
convinces him. So
I think they were just lightly referencing the fact that there was convincing going on. Yeah, we'll see.
I think eventually I think a way that they could pull this off is I think the Sinister Wizard is one of the blue wizards and Gandalf is a stand-in for the other one. It's just they're moving because of the moving of the timeline might be a little bit different. I don't know. But like I could see that being something. And then eventually Gandalf has to maybe go back to Valinor. I don't know what I would, but then he grabs Radagast and Saruman. I don't know. Like nothing makes sense with this show anymore. Like from a lore standpoint, that's why I just take my hat off and I go, haha, fuck, that's awesome. I just take it off. I just don't do it.
You know
Yeah,
what? I was convinced. I was convinced that Tom Bombadil was going to give the stranger his blue jacket, and that for 1 second we would have a blue wizard, and that didn't happen. And even if it wasn't a blue wizard, that like okay, he's Gandalf, we would have a moment of a blue wizard because of Tom's bright blue jacket. But that
Dang.
That would have made all the people who were determined he was a blue wizard so mad, though, if they did that and then made him Gandalf anyway.
that would have been freaking hilarious.
I mean, people would have been mad.
Discourse.
That would have been awesome.
Well,
White
yeah.
Blue's
So it's
jacket
nice that
was.
they have left us some things to still unpack in the next season. So that'll be interesting. Once we've wrapped up with those two, we ended up back with the stewards who are cleaning up their the destroyed place. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to, that part is all inconsequential because Poppy makes this amazing speech. And technically, even though this is the beginning of our discussion, this scene happens at the end of the episode. So while she's talking about basically how to accept when things aren't good. And so it's showing the destruction just everywhere, and she's saying some things can't be fixed, some things lost are lost forever. The world's much bigger than any of us, and sometimes the winds blowing against us are just too strong. At those times, we just got to accept it. What's broke is broke and won't fix, and all anybody can do is try and build something new. And I thought that was, most of all, very beautiful, very moving. It also sort of made me think about Sam's speech, where he's saying, the darkness is here, but the darkness will pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it'll shine the clearer. So that particular moment meant a lot to me because I was very moved by that speech.
it was also edited very similarly to how they edited Sam's speech, where it was
Mhm.
put on like superimposed on top of like silent montages of these big epic moments happening elsewhere in the world at the time with our other plot lines.
I will say this. But behind Elendil, Poppy is my girl, and I swear to Christ, if anything happens to that poor child, I will be banging down Amazon's freaking doors.
We can riot the
Well,
studio
I will be
together.
The tragic thing is,
Shh,
the tragedy has already happened to her, right? Imagine being a
Yeah.
child and having to hear this speech. I mean, it's heartbreaking to think that you had to give this speech to a child, and that's the best you could do, right? But sometimes that is all we've got.
Yeah. Well, and it compares to where we're at the end of this episode. We have gone through so much, and in particular this season, we've done a lot of what we thought was right ended up being wrong, i.e. Celebrimbor and Anatar doing his manipulating. Galadriel still learning that lesson that she tried to learn in the first season. Elrond taking a L earlier, but then understanding, hey, there are two ways to look at a situation, and maybe they weren't so wrong with the rings. Maybe I should be a little.
Elrond can't take L's. I reject
Elrond-
that argument completely.
Anyway, but you know what I mean. You know where I'm getting at. Like what she's trying. Like that's the name of this season. Like they have to learn to accept the defeats, but then get back up and keep on fighting. Like what is said in Sam's speech in Two Towers.
And I don't think there's going to be any more big defeats coming in the rest of the series.
No, absolutely. Everything's going to be.
I think it's
like
going to be
building.
fine. Everything's going to be fine.
This was just the crest, and now it's just smooth
everything's
sailing.
fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nick, I think you also. Pod one's Nick. I think you had you liked you liked, I think, Poppy and Nori as well. You were a big fan.
I do. Luke and I are in the same page that if anything ever happens to Poppy, I will be Amazon, not the studios, but the tech company is here in Vancouver. I will go destroy them, and Luke can take care of the rest.
All right, got it. Bet. Kaya, we're gonna pay for plane tickets. Don't worry, we're gonna storm it together.
We have the Bezos balls in Seattle, so I can go.
I'm on fire.
I will set the balls on fire. But no, like
I'm gonna clip that.
As Manway as my witness, I will set the balls on fire.
To Nick's point, like I do think that the Harfoots, like the story of Poppy and Nori, like from season 1 to season 2 has just been so good throughout all of it. I think the story of Disa and Doran as well, like season 1, season 2, like these are the four characters that I think throughout all of it have just really, really hit hard for me personally. And like I love the story of Poppy and Nori. I am in agreement. Like nothing is allowed to happen to Poppy. She is too sweet. Like it's just, and like the speech that she did in the beginning, like when she was singing and she kind of like revealed everything around them when she was singing, was also like just every moment. It's just so good with her. And obviously her and Mary Mac are so sweet together.
Yes. I would watch an entire series of just those two setting up in a house and getting a family going, without a doubt.
That's all I've been thinking about is a Mary Mac and Poppy spinoff.
Oh my god,
need to see
don't get me started on that. Like, I wasn't so sure about him in the beginning. I was like, my girl, not so sure about this knucklehead. But then I was like, wait, that's me. So then I do approve.
Father. All right, everyone. I know that I'm using this airspace unnecessarily, but I think we have 30 seconds right now to everyone. Please say hi to New Better Do Better and call him a nerd.
Nerd.
What's up, nerd?
Nerd.
What up, nerd?
What are you doing, nerd? I'm gonna shove you in a locker, nerd. Just kidding.
I would never.
I would
There
pay
you
to
go,
watch
New
Luke
Better. We
try.
love you. We're thinking of you.
No, you don't mess with New Better.
Highlight this one.
No.
All right,
He
so
pleaded the fifth on that one.
Somewhere.
He was quiet.
His hands are clean.
But I mean, I always found the three of them, like
I wrote
Poppy,
it in
Nori,
chat.
and the stranger / Gandalf, to kind of, for me
Mhm.
anyways, be like the strongest emotional center out of the entire cast of characters. I always felt that they had the most connection for me, and to see them split like this is bittersweet. I'm excited to see where they go if we continue to follow Poppy and Nori and the stores. I don't know whether or not we will. If it makes sense in the larger story, I will leave that to those who know the lore way better than me to debate that one. But I do think that even in the small scenes that they had in this episode, you could see the impact that Nori and Poppy have had on Gandalf in terms of how he acts towards people and what his demeanor is, and we're curious and really excited to see how that carries on into a third season, and how he interacts with the people that he comes across.
Yeah,
I would
sure.
love to see 6 seasons of just them traveling anywhere where they go. I would watch that in a heartbeat.
I love to hear people love that storyline because it gets a lot of flack, I think. But
Calling
then
it now, it's going to be like the Ewoks spin-off cartoon from...
But better, but better, but better,
That was great.
but better, but better.
Sure.
I mean,
But better.
I don't know. There's like I have two trains of thought on a lot of it. Like there's this part of me that's like approaches the show from like a lore perspective. Not that I'm an expert on lore, but there's that part of me that like wants to think about it like that. And then there's the other part of me that's just like, well, I'm here for the ride and it's a fun ride to be on. And I like enjoy watching the show. Like if I want like hardcore lore content, I open a book. And when I want to be entertained by a show, I watch it. And one thing that I do love about, sorry, this is more of an overall thought, but one thing I love about the show in this episode and all of it is that it makes me think about the lore and then want to read more of it. It does a good job of pulling me into the books.
And I think that's the point. I think that's the point about what they are trying to do. If you think about it, Amazon, with that first season, like that first couple of episodes, was like, hey, like, and they also were doing like a thing where they were also promoting the show within the books. They're like, hey, if you want to learn more about this, here's your books. You can just pay for them, and Amazon will send them to you. You know what I mean? Like it's a grab. It's to get new people to watch and then be more curious. I would be very curious to see how many new fans we get from this show, which is exciting.
I mean, one of my friends at work is reading the book for the first time, and it's the first time he's read a book since like middle school. Literally, that's what his words, not mine. He's like,
there you go.
He's like halfway through, and he's like, "This is really
Brings the
great."
power of getting people to read.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like, and here's the thing, like Nick, I've been bullying him. I will not. I don't bully a lot, but I will bully him. I'm trying to get him to read everything, or at least listen to the audiobooks of all of the books. And he will eventually get there. Trust me.
I have the
will.
Silmarillion on my phone.
There you go.
When
So
I need to go to sleep, I will turn it on.
Oh, don't.
Not because of the content, because of Andy Serkis's voice. To be fair,
Yeah,
Listen
that is
of,
true.
of Valerian and its realms, then you'll just.
But no, like
Here's a
I think that's the best part about the show is that it's bringing in new fans. It's bringing in new perspectives, and that is what I love.
That's what it should do.
Is
Yeah.
bringing other perspectives.
Yeah, and I mean, like Callie, like you referenced, and like I said before the stream started, I was never a big Tolkien fan, not because I don't think that he's a good writer. It just was never a type of writing that resonated with me.
Yeah.
Despite my attempts, I tried The Hobbit, I tried The Fellowship of the Rings. I really gave it a good, honest try and just couldn't do it. But this is inspiring me to try it again. That may not change the result, but I mean that's at least something, because I'm normally someone, when I've made my decision that this is not for me, that's it. Like it's not something that I'm going to pick up again, because there's enough things in the world to try the first time. Why try again a second time? But I do think it speaks to the impact of this series that, at least for me anyways, I'm willing to give it another shot, because they have done such a great job of building out the world. and it's gotten me invested.
That's
I think
awesome.
you're in good company now too. If you need to feel excited about what you're reading, I think you can find that not too far away from you.
Yeah, I feel like Luke's just kind of like hovering.
Well, and here's the other
but
thing.
then I
and here's
remember
the other
there's
thing.
this little empty spot here in my.
Oh, okay.
wall.
Stop. We don't need to talk about that. No, but like here's the other thing though. At least for me, and not to make this about Star Wars, but like Nick can gravitate this towards the High Republic right now. It's hard for a lot of readers to get into that era of Star Wars because it's not on screen.
Yep.
Now
Definitely.
you have the Acolyte that gives you that era. You can now visualize some of these characters and what they're supposed to look like. That's what Rings of Power is going to do for Nick for like the Silmarillion. He'll see he'll think of Galadriel and he'll see Morfydd Clark, for example. Or like it's at least for me, that's what is good for this, is that it helps me visualize those.
Also renew the Acolyte. Anyways.
Yeah, anyway. Sorry.
Anyway, so then we wrap up the Rune story area with the Grand Elf, or the Stranger. I guess the Stranger no longer going to be the Stranger. So Pete and Kelly, I think you guys wanted to talk a bit about this.
Yeah, Kelly, do you want to start?
Are we talking Tommy B?
Yeah, we are. It's your boy.
As far as Gandalf, I'm glad that they just admitted it. I'm glad that they finally told us because of all the hints that they were dropping. I think I was definitely in camp Team Blue Wizard season 1, but I couldn't deny it from like the end of season 1, like and then everything that they did in season 2, just full on hints that it was Gandalf. That I was going to be pissed if it was a Blue Wizard just based off of that. So I'm glad and I'm glad we have a name, but more than that, like we have a purpose of Gandalf. Like it feels like at the end of this episode that like everyone is where they should be finally. It's not just like this, we're keeping our audience in the dark because we want to tell it a certain way, which is all fine and well, but what that meant was that the audience was also kind of disoriented. And now I feel like we're not. We know our characters, we know what's going on, we know where, like what they want to do and their motivations behind it. And I think having Gandalf named now does a lot for us. So I'm glad that we're there. And I think his pairing with Tom Bombadil was so unexpected for me before season 2, and I really liked the pairing of them together, and I really liked Gandalf learning from Tom Bombadil, except for the part where Tom Bombadil took the line from Gandalf. We won't talk about that. We'll move on. But that's the only part I didn't like. But I think Tom has a lot of interesting things about him. The conversation over, mastery over living things and getting power from living things, and Tom turning that around and saying everybody belongs to themselves and you find your own power, just really was moving, and I loved it.
So I really enjoy Tom Bombadil and seeing him, and I know a lot of people kind of disagreed with some aspect. I did for episode 6 was very jarring, to Kelly's point, using those lines. I hope they lean into their characters a little more, where it almost feels like Tom Bombadil's done in Rune, and I hope I actually do hope they show him go to the Old Forest and how he gets established there, and even dealing with the Barrow Wights. I'd love to see that type of thing, because that's something that happens in the Adventures of Tom Bombadil and such. So it'd be a great callback. But when it comes to Gandalf, I think we all knew it was going to be Gandalf. We all had hopes and dreams and this idea that, maybe it's a Blue Wizard. Maybe there's this possibility. But at the same time, to Kelly's point, I'm really glad they've done this. And I almost want to watch the first season with the context of knowing it's Gandalf to see if it just kind of works a little better. Yeah. My hope is for season 3 that yes, we have these parallels of what we're going to see at the end of the Return of the King, where we hear Gandalf speaking about going to talk to Tom, and being moss on stone, and he wants to hear his side of things. And I do like that connection where like things started with Tom, and now things are going to end with Tom. My quest started with Sauron, was directed by Tom. Well, it's been a long tale and it's been a long story. Maybe one I need to sit down and now that I've been like kind of the haze of things as Gandalf, like at the end of the Return of the King, like the haze of things is gone. He remembers who he is in its fullty, and like now he's talking to Tom about it. I enjoy that. But one thing I'll say is I really want them to lean more into the attitude of Gandalf, because I really don't get that vibe. I love the actor and I love the character, but I almost wish he stayed just the stranger, because now I'm assigning who Gandalf is to the performance that already happened. And Gandalf is quick-witted, quick to temper, and I just I need that vibe next season. I need him to really lean into it. So
if they do it right, like the transition from stranger to Gandalf is going to be one of the best told story arcs of the show, I think, in my opinion. But they have to give it time, and I don't know if they have the time with the 8-episode structure. So I'm nervous of that, but I do have high hopes for us seeing him become Gandalf, because that could be one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, we got to see him get the hat. We got to see him get that pipe.
He got a stick though. He found his stick on.
He did. Yes,
I love that, and I love them singing together, because like
Yeah.
I really do want to just say Bear McCreary has been awesome.
Yes.
We all knew something was going to happen because we got to hear the soundtrack early with like hearing I forget his name, Danny Wayward, his name, Wayman. I'm sorry,
Wayman.
And then of course like I always mess this guy's up name who plays Tom Bombadil. It's Rory Kinnear.
Yeah.
And like the both of them singing together, I don't care if it's not canon. I don't care about any of that. It was awesome. Though I wonder why they're singing Tom Bombadil's song, but still, I'm like, let's do this. I love this. Music is so important to Tolkien. Like it's
so important. And you know what? Like I will read those words differently in a good way now. Where I always like glanced over like let us sing together. Like yes, Tom sings, and like he just sings his conversations. That's who he is. Okay, whatever. I've always been under the idea that like Tom has been like, yeah, I feel like if we met Tom in real life, he'd be very annoying. Like that's my thing.
In the House of Bombadil, it's like Goldberry makes sense, and Tom's like over there just like a coot just saying stuff, and they're like, what? Oh, it's like, yeah,
that's the vibe with me and my partner. He'll just be loud and singing, and I'm like, anyways.
I relate to him so much though, because that's literally me.
Right. But like let us sing together, like it has new meaning, and it has like when Miranda and I were talking to the actor, and like he was talking about, like he was really animatedly talking about like his interaction with Tom, and how like the stranger like was kind of like thrown for a loop and like didn't understand like where Tom was coming from, and how they had to go on a journey. It's like Tom was over there, and then like the stranger was over here, and then at the end like he's really learned, and they've kind of come on the same page, and they've kind of like from this whirlwind have kind of come to kind of center and calm, like. And I went into that like with that in mind of the season, like seeing how they would be together, and it just was like, I think it was really well done. I don't know, I like the calmness and the let's sing together, but it doesn't have to be like a powerful song. It's power in the quietness and the stillness, and the power that comes from that sort of song.
And I like it too, because Tom's awakening the song within Gandalf. Like his story starts here, and it's like it's the same thing where these parallels that I don't know if anyone has noticed it through the series that they keep doing with like Kemen showing up, and it's like, oh, they're cutting the trees down, Alderion, with Numenor, and now it's like here we're seeing these elements of the Secret Fire, or music being a huge part, where they now are singing the same tune in unison out of nowhere, and it's like, yes, because the music in itself is in all things, in all creation. And I do love those subtle callbacks to the Silmarillions, like behind Elendil. So
I don't know if we really have it on the outline, but I do, because you brought up Bear McCreary. I do want to shout out the music of this has been incredible. Max just put in the chat.
Absolutely, it has. Yeah.
The troll metal. I don't know if anyone saw the TikTok that Bear posted about that. Is really good. Where he got Jens from
Kidman.
from
Yeah.
Meshuggah to do the
Yeah.
vocals, and I mean, it's really like I love metal, and like it was really cool to see. It's like, yeah, it's Lord of the Rings has really impacted music that way, and it's really cool to give it back.
wow.
So I thought that was such a great video, and just the composition he's done for this show, I think, has been phenomenal. Like
Absolutely.
it has
In
been
regards to episode 8, that like final song that played right before the credits when Gil-galad puts the sword up, that was
That was a
Epic
good.
stuff.
That was
goosebumps.
good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was so good. Yeah. Oh. God.
So
dang.
now we are going to hop over to Numenor. They take boats in the story. If we went, I imagine we take an airplane. So Max, do we have a very, very quick fact? One has been requested in the chat, so I'm just obliging.
If you were going to take an airplane to Numenor, you might maybe take like a Grumman goose so you could have water landings so that you could, while you're flying into Numenor, you could maybe land in some of the harbors or something. And I don't think that they have mid-air refueling or a lot of fuel there, so you might want something that you're able to land safely in the sea in case you need a ditch and get on a Numenor vessel.
Perfect.
That's
Thank you, Max.
Yeah,
That was perfect. That was perfect.
my best.
That was great. With having to do it on the fly, that was just fantastic.
Nah.
You could also do one of those like 172s they retrofit to fly to Hawaii, where the whole back seat turns into a fuel tank.
Oh yeah, I watched
Yeah,
one of those. That was amazing.
Yeah,
those
you
are
could
crazy.
You could do that.
A
Like,
lot of options. You get an otter, the Haviland otter. There's lots of cool. We could talk about seaplanes.
Yeah.
All right, so
Because I'm in Seattle, so I see them all the time.
no longer be about Rings of Power.
Yeah, let's talk about Numenor.
The Icon A5 doesn't have a lot of range, but it can land in the water.
It could.
Like,
We're joking.
they were
but
giving
they-
one away, like on their
You are gonna
Instagram.
be-
So maybe you could go to
I got
Numenor
it.
on that.
I got
Okay.
I love
Nick,
airplanes.
Nick, let's get this icky character out of the way. Talk to us about Arafatason.
Oh,
Fuck that guy.
well, yeah. First of all, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
And so in that regard, just getting us to the level of hatred and vitriol that we feel for this man as quickly as they did is good emotionally, but I'm not super fond of, like, to me, this is where the time compression suffered the most this season. And we really see that in episode 8, where it's like legitimately confusing why Farazan shows up and is just like, aha, she's not the queen anymore because she sided with Sauron. Like, okay, but you used the elf stone to know that, and that was the whole reason that she didn't become crowned as queen. So that felt very strange to me. What's interesting too is how quickly the split of the faithful and the Kingsmen is happening. I mean, obviously they have to do it that way because we're not living with Numenor for 3,000 years as we should have. Just kidding. But I don't know. It's a mixed bag for me. Kemen's arrival, which I know Pete's going to talk about more in the Pelargir section, but Kemen's arrival to me signals what's happening on the island, spreading out in the shadow that's already happening, even without Sauron's direct influence, right? Because this is a world that has been marred by the shadow, regardless of who's doing that. And I don't know. I'm very interested. As someone brought up in the chat last night during the reaction, I hope that we get some of the like play for wanting immortality and ultimately, well, spoilers.
Yeah. I agree with you 100% there, Nick. Because people are like, I hope he gets a ring. I'm like, I don't. For a reason.
If he gets a ring, boy.
Quick shout out,
Yeah.
dude has the best beard I've ever seen.
Oh, truly.
Finishing
Yeah, I loathe Farazan more than anything, but his douchebag of a fucking son. He is right next to him. If I could super punch both of them in the face at once, I would. They are the worst.
I pity Farazan because, actually the whole. I hope they use it because it's one of the only spoken parts of the Second Age mentioned in the appendices. The conversation between Farazan and Sauron after he comes to Numenor. And one thing that's always consistent about Farazan in the books is that he's a great venturer and he's generous with his wealth and he has many accolades. And even when he takes the throne, he's older than Midiel or Elendil are, because he's actually he grew up with Amandil, Elendil's father. And I like how he has the gray in his beard. It kind of represents that a little in the show without saying it. But it's like the time compression thing comes to mind because you don't really see that. You don't see that change because you don't see that change until, the events play out where who is proclaiming themselves king of men and of the world type thing. But I just hope that we've come to a point in Numenor where we could stop rushing through it and being disjointed, and we could finally get a slow burn that we need for it to turn into what the Akalabeth is.
100%. I know we're not talking about the whole season, but I'm going to just make one quick comment. My least favorite storyline of season 1 was the elves, and I think that this season really redeemed the elves. Eregion being incredible. I think Gil-galad, although we didn't get to see him very much, was a lot better than we saw last season. My hope is that next season does some of that redemption for Numenor as a whole. Now that they've gotten it to the point of essentially civil war and subjugation of people who are faithful to the Valar, I think the board is set, the pieces are moving.
Yeah, my prediction for season 3, based on the ending of this season, is that I think that season 3 is going to be very Numenor focused. I would agree with that. That would make the most sense to me.
Yep, that would be the next. That would be the next piece to fall, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Because we've had one destruction, and as much as we want to stay positive about the people being not in harm, that shit ain't gonna happen at all.
But you all lied earlier in this street. You guys all said this was the crest and everything was getting better after this. You've all lied
Nick,
to me.
Sweetie, you'll learn very quickly.
Please, so much, child.
I'm going to hold your hand when I say this.
But the rest of Numenor is of course, featuring the great, the magnificent Elendilf. And Miranda, do you want to start us off with that discussion?
Well, first of all, he's great. We love him. No notes. A scene that stood out to me, which I'm sure stood out for a lot of people, was the very brief, hey, by the way, this is Narsil, giving him the sword, which is aesthetically designed like the sword that Weta made for the Jackson films, and it was shot in the same way as when Aragorn receives Anduril in the Jackson films. There you go. Look at that.
Speak gently, Miranda, because I'm pretty sure Luke loved this. So,
no, I actually didn't hate it. So I know that some people have really mixed feelings on how many homages there are to the Jackson films in this show, and it can be heavy-handed, but some of them I do find quite charming. I did like the Narsil reveal. As much as I wish I had seen a different Balrog, I was glad that they made Narsil look like it does in the Jackson films, just to have that kind of carryover. But more so, this episode with Elendil is just making me more excited about next season. I agree with Max. I think we're going to get some Numenor focus next season, and I'm super pumped that he is on his way to see Anarion, because we've had Anarion name dropped a few times, but very vaguely, and we've never gotten to see Anarion in any sort of Tolkien media, and I really want to. So I have high hopes for the future with Anarion and going west and maybe going to Andunier and meeting Anarion, and then I'm sure the dynamic between Aarion and Elendil and Anarion, and then Isildur coming back to Numenor. is going to be an interesting dynamic. I don't know. It's something that I'm glad that they left us on. I'm glad they left us on the note of we're going to go see Anarion. That's just how I felt about that.
Luke, do you
I
want
would
to
challenge-
gossip about your sword at all?
That's the sword that
Nah.
I fixed. I want everyone to know that.
Oh yeah, he did fix it, and it's probably gonna need fixed again while you're here because
You're
the
like an
pommel
Elvin.
is a
You're
little
like an
bit-
Elvin Smith of Rivendell, reforging it into Anduril, Flame of the West that Aragorn
They
carried into war.
reforged.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's me.
I would
How did you
challenge
know?
anybody to be handed Narsil, anybody, and not pull it out. Like,
Like that.
It's,
Yeah,
taking,
right.
it's taking me so much not to do it right now, Max.
yeah,
Like,
you couldn't do it. He couldn't. They couldn't shoot a scene with him pulling out Narsil and not have him. Wow, it'd be like, yeah, no.
They
that was
told
a
him
good-
not to. It was in the script not to, but it just kept happening.
And then they saw him do it, and they were like, "No, they saw him doing the. That was you were right. Like, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
how,
yeah,
you,
you're
that's how you pull. That's how you pull that sword out."
no, I lost my shit when I saw this. When we were in the reaction, it's like, oh, he's doing it, he's doing a thing. For those that don't know, Aragorn is my favorite character. So seeing his line and kind of seeing the beginning of the of an heirloom that has been passed down through his line, and that is so important in the destruction of Sauron, i.e., cutting the ring off the hand, and then also being in the hands of Aragorn during the War of the Ring. It was pretty awesome to see. But Numenor, just for everything that Miranda said, like, we're getting to see Anarion. We're getting to see kind of I think the good thing about, like, everybody's complaint about Numenor last season was Eärien, because it's like she feels like she has to be different, but now towards the end of this season she's like, oh shit, I'm starting to realize that I'm on the wrong side. And I don't know what we're going to do with her character, because she is an original character, but there's so many ways that they can take her. She is a sculptor. She's an architect. So she could be the one that creates, that helps build Osgiliath. She could help build Minas Arnor and Minas Ithil. Like, there are so many things. But then on the opposite side, she could be the reason that she creates something in Numenor that brings really bad results. So, like, there's two sides of this coin that I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this character, because I feel like she seems like this season makes her a little bit more important, but she still doesn't know where she lies at this point. And I think that's the most interesting part about Numenor right now. And obviously Elendil doing Elendil stuff, and then Isildur and everything that we'll see next season, I think is going to be, like you guys said, a very, very Numenor heavy. So I'm very excited about that.
I'm very happy to see Isildur finally going home.
Yeah, agreed.
So what though, right? Pete and
Nothing
Kelly,
good.
anything you'd like to add about Numenor and Elendil in general?
Miriel and Elendil should kiss.
Yeah,
They should do
Facts.
it.
Right?
That's the non-canonical kiss I want to see.
Yeah, right. I'm interested how they're gonna approach Elendil, because it's like, once again, there's a lot of jumping around. What are they gonna drag the faithful back? 'Cause that's what happens. They get told they need to be in Romena and removed from the West, so they don't stay in contact with any of the Eldar. But who I'm really interested with the Elendil, because like Miriel said, you have to go claim your lordship. I want to know what happened to Amandil. And I really hope they get some form of permission to kind of allude to him going west. I think that would be, for me, that would be a huge thing for Elendil, being that, like, him losing his father. You know, there's obviously Durin, who lost his father, and then of course Isildur with his mother. I would just like to see that call back too. I would love to see that. Or he's still around. That'd be great too.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much to add, but just echoing mostly like what Miranda said. I love that moment, and I think that Elendil was honestly carried the heart of the show for me this season. as much as I loved Anatar and Celebrimbor's scenes, and I thought that they did that like pretty well, I think I felt the most emotion with Elendil. And I was rooting, he was the character I was rooting for the most. And so if they continue that heart and their, like, Elendil's like the person we want to follow, right? We'll follow him in battle, which is how we should feel about him. And it's not how I feel about Gil-galad at all in the show. So I'm very disappointed that I don't feel that way for the elves, but I do feel that way, surprisingly, for Numenor and for the heart of Numenor, which is Elendil. So I'm very excited just to follow him into battle. And the moment where Muriel tells him to, take up his destiny, which is the sword, is also so heartbreaking because his destiny is to die by that sword as well, like in trying to use it in battle against Sauron. He will die. Spoilers, sorry. Actually, no, because you've probably seen Lord of the Rings, and that happened the first 5 minutes. But it was so heartbreaking as well to see that because it's such an epic, powerful moment, but it's such a sad one too because we know what's going to happen with that sword for his character. So I hope to continue to be uplifted in my heart by him and then utterly destroyed in my heart.
God, I hate that.
I've loved Elendil's casting. I think Lloyd Owen's done a wonderful job with Elendil. Even in season 1, when I first saw him, I was like, "That's Elendil. It's 100%." And he does a great job of playing the character for sure.
Just his presence in scenes is enough to like change the entire temperature on that scene, and that's such a credit to the way that he, uses his body language to really sell what it is that he's saying. It's so well done.
Well, and also I think it's interesting because they look at, obviously, he, like, from what I understand, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is said that Aragorn is like very much similar to Elendil, like to where it's like,
he's said to be the second coming of Elendil.
Yeah, second coming of Elendil. So when you look at Lloyd, you kind of see this.
Did he just
he
freeze?
froze. He froze.
Oh,
me?
Luke died.
It was a great pause.
Really?
You had
He
like,
came
just
back.
Like this.
You're
Am I here?
You're
Am I alive?
You're here now. You're back.
Did Arrow Luminar take me away for a second?
The blip is over.
Luke,
Oh my God,
Luke
I'm so
the White
sorry.
arrived at the turn of the tide.
No, but like they definitely did that on purpose to kind of put them similarly, like their physique, the way they look, their jawline, just the way they look are very similar, and that's obviously on purpose. And the way he handles himself is perfect for Elendil.
They're
They should
both
have him open some.
insanely-
They should have him. They should have him open some doors.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
trilogy homage I need to see is that one. That's the one they should include.
Yep.
Thank you, Max. That is what that's
We
what
will
we need.
just die.
This show, I think this show is just so unapologetically hot, like
Yes.
the entire time. It's
The cast
insane.
is so gorgeous.
Oh,
Oh my God. Yeah. Someone who's not gorgeous though is we're gonna go to Pelargir. And I'm pretty sure everybody wants to hate on Kemen, so everybody all at
Kemen.
once, please.
Fuck Kemen.
Fuck
Kemen. First of all, Max.
Kelly unmuted herself for this shit. Yeah.
Max, first of all, there is no other option. It's just Kemen. There is no other option in your poll, sir. It's just Kemen. Everybody.
I
hates
agree.
Kemen.
Other people have picked Sauron. I picked
Wow.
Kemen. I picked
Yeah,
Kemen.
fuck
I just
Kemen.
think what I will say real quick, and I'm going to be quiet for a while, is that what I love about the show, and especially in episode 8, they like really sealed the deal on it, is that the show was able to make me hate a character as much as I hate Kemen, which is also like props to the actor. He's just one of like, if I ever ran into him, I'd be like, I don't like you, dude. Like, I don't want you to sign my poster. I don't like you. You're you stabbed Valinor in the back. You tried to feed people Beric. No. Anyways.
Yeah.
But it is a good thing that the show's able to make you feel that way.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and his credit to his acting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's
hope
great.
an end steps on him.
Yeah, I do. The scene where Kemen and the Numenorians, also Numenorians for some reason, anytime I hear it or say it, I just think about Muppet Treasure Island, where they talk about going to Zanzibar to meet the Zanzibarbarians, and it's just they rhyme. Like, but anyways, like I did love Kemen. Like he comes off the boat and he sees the Isildur, and he's like, "Shit."
Yeah.
And he plays the game, and he's like, "Oh, it's so good to see you, bro. Like, how you doing? We're gonna get
he
you.
was
We're gonna
visibly
get you back."
soiling himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just like when he wants, I can't remember the girl's name, the one that he was kind of like
Estrid.
Estrid, yeah, he had a thing
Estrid.
for.
Yeah.
And then Kemen's like, no low man will be allowed on the boat, and then just the switch, and it's so sinister, and I'm just like, God, I hate him so much. It's just like, I think Max is right. It's like when someone makes you hate a character for like the right reasons, like it's just it's almost satisfying. Like I cannot wait to just see whatever just horrible fate awaits him, and just him get what is coming to him. Like it's just like there's so many people who could take him out and it'd be satisfying at this point, but I'm just like,
I like TJ's idea in
I
the
think
chat,
Barrick should
in the
take him
comments
out.
there.
Barrick. Yeah.
Barrick would be good.
Yeah, he
Barrick has
deserves
to be
it,
the one
yeah.
after that.
Barrick
after that
takes
threat.
out Kemen just like that horse did in episode 7 of that orc.
Yeah.
Just
That was extreme.
karate kick him.
Pete mentioned it so briefly, but it was something that I actually really loved about the Pelargir scene is like the focus on them going there specifically to get lumber, because that is like such a huge part of Numenor's history of like coming to Middle Earth and like subjugating them and taking their trees to build more ships. Like it's one of the darker parts of Numenor that is often overlooked, and like just that little one thing of like, yeah, we all hate Kemen, and he's here to like show us that like there's this darker side of Numenor, and that's really lore accurate, and it leads into like maybe he's gonna get fucked up by an Ent, which would be really satisfying. I really liked that moment.
What if, and again, you can always anyone is welcome to correct me on lore at any point when I'm just like rambling. What if Aarion has like a redemption arc where she kills Kemen?
I mean, Kemen and
Neither of
Kemen and
those
Aarion are
characters
both
exist
original
in the lore.
Yeah,
characters.
they're
so,
both
yeah.
new, so like
Okay.
do
Could
whatever
totally
they want.
happen.
Whatever you want.
Totally
Yeah.
happen.
I think it would be really great if in Aarion's like redemption arc, she builds the temple to Morgoth, thinking she's doing a good thing for like the faithful or whatever, and Kemen is the first human sacrifice.
Ooh.
Spoilers.
All right, we letting our fantasies get away with it. We just heard your theory. Nick, you might have a theory about Theo.
So this show is heavy-handed with some of its references, but also its use of filmic techniques, such as showing us foreshadowing very obviously, and I often like that. It's when people aren't paying attention. If you're doing the classic millennial, Gen Z, or Alpha thing of being on your phone while also watching something, it's kind of blink and you miss it. But the emphasis of the hug between Theo and Isildur is, I think, really important. Something is going to happen from that, and my theory, I'm back on the Theo's going to be a Nazgul. Or at least get one of the rings. I don't know how they're going to handle the Rings of Men, all of that, because timeline is weird. But yeah, I could see that hug being something like that was the last time that they saw each other with joy in their eyes, and then Kemen's going to be twisted by these rings that are so influenced by Sauron that literally have Sauron's blood in them.
Goop.
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 It's goop.
Put some respect on the goop, Nick.
Pete, talk about the goop and Pelargir.
No.
I mean, I think that Pelargir's. I think it's going to be how like the launching point for Sauron getting to Numenor.
I think so too.
We're not talking.
I
We're not talking.
actually think it's going to be a bit of a time jump. Not like a lot, but I think we're going to see an older Theo, and I think I don't think Astrid and Isildur are going to end up together. I mean, it'd be interesting if they did, but there has to be, because Theo has to get older, and I do think that Theo is the Witch King, a healer. He's been given an elven sword. He's used sorcery with the blade that he found that they used to open the whole damn thing. He's kind of being established as a character who's friendly, who's set to lose everything from Arondir to Pelargir to already his mother, and then his friendship with Isildur. He's going to have his whole opinion changed by that with Kemen and the Numenorians taking over Pelargir, which is weird. I'm going to be honest with you. It ticked me off because that never happens in lore. Pelargir is a faithful haven, and Umbar is more of for the Black Numenorians. Whatever, but I do think that Theo's going to be pushed to the brink, and that's what's going to make him so desperate for power to help his people and, defend against these Sea Kings from, the West.
Yeah.
He'll be ripe for a ring, dude.
100%. 100%.
I thought it was really funny. There's that little point when Kemen tells Estrid that she's not, or Isildur or Estrid can't go. That whole little exchange, her husband's just standing there the whole time what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, that dude, what's his name? Hergon or something? Hergen or something? I don't know what his name is. That dude got burned so bad.
He's like, what the hell?
Dude,
he's I just survived Ents and stuff. We're building a house.
Yeah.
What?
I'm also, this is going to be a downer theory, but speaking of Ents, the theory that is most popularly accepted of what happens to the Entwives is Sauron's their downfall, and that could still happen. But I think in the collection of Lumber, we're going to see conflict, and that conflict may end with a leaving of them, if not some outright felling of those fair trees by the people who are being mandated to collect lumber, or else
They're
they
forced,
don't get.
That's a bad situation to be in.
Kemen hunting down some orcs would further solidify him, or hunting down Ents would further solidify him as my least favorite dude.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd be the worst.
And just
no, sorry.
Just real quick to that point, I'm fine spoiling not a event, but a theme that's going to happen, and that is Tolkien said in his letter 131 to Milton Wildman, he was trying to get him to publish Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion together, and he gave this really long, essentially flyover of all of it, mostly Lord of the Rings. But in that letter, he says, anyway, all this stuff is mainly concerned with fall, mortality, and the machine. And I'm going to focus on fall, but we can talk about mortality and the machine later. We are going to see characters rise to really high heights and then fall really far.
Yes.
Namely, Isildur. I think Peter Jackson's biggest sin was making us think that Isildur is the cause of the conflicts of the Third Age, and that's just misunderstanding it completely, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. Kemen, I mean, he is kind of the embodiment, even more so than Pharazôn, of the fall of Numenor into darkness. And I don't know. We'll see. But as Pete was saying, it should be Umbar that a lot of this darkness is happening in, but I guess they just want to condense even further. If that's Pelargir where it ends up happening more, so be it. It's definitely where the foothold
they're gonna
of
do Umbar, the Corsairs of Umbar.
That's true.
I've already said Corsairs are out there before. I think in the first season.
That's true too. That is true too. Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to bring in a little of those themes because that is actually one positive. I think they are sticking to some of those themes pretty well in this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Nick. All right, we have about half an hour left to talk about our last location, but there will be a lot to talk about, I think. We are ending now in Eregion. Everyone's very excited to start, I can see. I guess we'll start with Celebrimbor and an Anatar. Kaya, Luke, Kelly?
I have a lot to say on that.
Go ahead.
Pop off.
So like, I mean, I've been posting about it a lot because I love how in depth these actors are bringing out the characteristics in these characters, especially Charlie Vickers, and playing the narcissist so well. Like it's scary well, from the facial twitches to the voice changes to just acting with his eyes and all that stuff. And then in this last episode with Celebrimbor, just really playing the victim that's just absolutely over their abuser and just trying to get out of it. And like I wrote a whole thing on just my like feelings of it, because it's a lot, because a lot happens in that bit, especially with like, you know, the like just their abuser and abusee relationship, but also like, you know, when Celebrimbor is dying and he prophesizes the rings, and then Sauron crying. And I just want to hear everyone's thoughts on that, because I need to talk to somebody about it, because I have so many thoughts.
It was that whole sequence with the arrows was like so painfully beautiful. Like it just, the way it was put on, like what you said, when Sauron's crying because of it, like and it's genuine that he has very strong emotions about it, and I think just Celebrimbor's unyielding to Sauron the whole time, and the one image that I thought that, and maybe I could be totally wrong on this as far as the dynamic between the two characters, is when he takes the spear and gets Celebrimbor finally on that. I love the fact that he unintentionally put Celebrimbor above him in the frame, and so Celebrimbor is looking down upon his torturer, as though he has achieved like the higher ground, he is in the higher space, and he has transcended above Sauron. And like there's no anger, there's no hatred between, there's like almost, there is a hatred, but like a compassion from Sauron, but there's no hatred from Celebrimbor in this whole scene. And it's just like, it's hard like to put into words sometimes, just like how beautiful this scene was, but how horrible it was to watch at the same time. And I think that the two actors just, I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen something so well acted and so well put together on screen in a really, really long time, especially on television. And I just like watching that last night, I was just blown away in so many different aspects. Like I could go on, but like, man, that was such an incredible moment of this show.
And let's just be clear, like the whole season of Anatar and Celebrimbor has been top notch. Like straight up top notch, no matter
100%.
what. I feel like it's been
Very
pretty
fast.
consistent. And the way Celebrimbor kind of goes out is pretty lore accurate, if I must say so.
Not
Minus
yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet.
It could have been.
Not yet.
I think
Could
that
have been.
spear is their like kind of tame
Nod.
way of doing Celebrate Banner. Like I think the spear and him being elevated is what we're gonna get for Celebrate Banner.
I'm
Sorry,
a lot of
so
people are
too.
upset, but I'm okay with this. This is fine. Like
What
I
is
don't need...
Celebrim Banner?
Oh,
I've seen
okay.
A lot of
Oh!
it all over my socials.
Somebody explain it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone
So-
break it down.
Okay.
I'm really scared now because Callie's reaction
Oh.
has me worried about what it is I'm about to hear.
No, so in the book, it doesn't go into like, you know, super detail. Basically, like Sauron tortures Celebrimbor, he's pierced with arrows, and then it just says that he's hung up as a banner, and then Sauron uses him as like a war banner and turns his forces back on Elrond.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn.
so it's never said how he's strung up. In a lot of illustrations, it's just him like being hung over like a scarecrow, but in a lot, he's actually like, you know, Celebrim kebabbed. So
I was thinking Vlad the Impaler style.
Yeah.
And I did
Almost
not want to see that.
crucified. But
Did
yeah.
not need to see
almost
that.
crucified. Yeah, it's
Okay.
what we got is what we got, and I think we're pretty good with that.
I do.
But,
I will say I did like the parallels with like the vision Galadriel had, and like where the
Yeah.
branches popped out. Like now it's the arrows being represented. But I want to like it's weird that's one thing that's weird with Sauron. He actually quotes the vision. So with Galadriel, like when they're fighting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I thought that was interesting. I noticed that on my second watching. And I was like,
Are
the
they not
planted
the
seeds,
you
right?
planted?
That,
Are they not the seeds you
Yeah.
planted?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But then I think that, but I guess that was like was he planting that vision in Galadriel before her mind was closed, which now it is.
Could have been. That's very, very. That would be on brand, would it not, friends? For him to do something like that to her. I mean, it's I mean, that just goes back to what Gil-galad was saying in the first couple of episodes. He's like, you cannot face him. He's in your brain, basically,
Word.
and it would make sense.
Yeah.
But my take on this is like I never even thought about the abuser abusee, but like the gaslighting, like it was so apparent that it was just like, yo, so you think you think I'm hurting you? You're actually hurting me, and I'm like, bro, this is
You're making me do this. Like, you see what you're making me do.
Yeah,
Like, I don't want to do this.
I was like, yo, this guy
And-
is real.
And like Celebrimbor's response to it, like just everything building up to this episode where he's finally just like, and I had said this in a live with New Better earlier, where he is like, I'm gonna go to the shores of the morning on a breath of a wind that you can never follow. And that is just like, not to get super deep in my feels, right? As someone who's been in an abusive relationship, that is just such a moving quote. Like, you feel it in your chest because it's just like, yes, absolutely. That is 100% something everyone in a bad relationship wants to feel. Be like, fuck you, you can't follow me, bye.
I have a question
Sorry,
for Kelly, unless
no, go ahead.
unless
Matt.
she already answered it. Did Celebrimbor fulfill what you wanted? Did you feel attached? Because I remember you saying you were worried that you weren't gonna like. Yeah.
About maybe 70 to 80%, I think. But I do still stand by. I wish that we saw more of Celebrimbor in season 1, because I think that the payoff could have been even better. But I do think, and honestly, I think that if I can't imagine any other actor besides Charlie Vickers against him, because I think that both of their performance together had a lot to do with how much I ended up appreciating this moment of Celebrimbor, but not fully, but pretty darn close. I'm satisfied.
Oh my. I'm sorry. I'm getting so distracted by the freaking comments. Jeff from the top row, just perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get back to Anatar, who we're now going to start calling Sauron. Everyone's getting all sorts of name changes this episode. It's happening. Deal with it. We're going to move on to Adar. Kelly, I think you particularly also. Sorry to bring you up again. I know you just got called on, but yeah, Adar. What did you think?
So in season 1, I didn't really care for the Adar storyline. I just didn't. I love the orcs. I think this is the best portrayal of orcs that we have ever seen on screen, and I will stand by that until they give me a reason not to. But I didn't really care for Adar. But the opening of this season had me way more invested, just with the opening that they gave us with Sauron and Adar together. And I think I ended up really liking his end. Even the whole kind of the ring transformed him back to his elven state, which is kind of ridiculous when I heard that could have been my brother told me that people were thinking that, and I go, yeah, right. And then that happened. But when it did happen, I actually really liked it. And I really liked that they did not give us a name for him. I don't think everything has to be named. I don't think we need a backstory for everything. I think that is very not Tolkien to do. So I loved his ending. I thought it was tragic in the fact that they made someone, from my perspective, like not really give a shit about what was happening with him to, by season 2, truly care about his death. I thought was very good. So I'm really happy where Adar ended up, and I do think that in a way it's also kind of nice that we can put that storyline aside and now have one less plot line to deal with and to move forward with Sauron and the orcs now in the way that we kind of is already established in our heads. So yeah, I really liked Adar, and I really liked, I don't know the actor's name, but I really liked his performance, and I almost liked him a little bit better.
Sam Hazeldine?
He was wonderful.
Yeah, he was great. I was kind of worried about it when they recasted him, because I really liked Uncle Benjen from Game of Thrones. I love him as an actor. He does a great job. But the actor who picked up for him nailed it. It was like you couldn't really tell the difference.
Yeah.
And I liked that. It was so good, and I couldn't agree with you more, Kelly. I like the parallels from what we got in the first episode to what we got at the end. His death, obviously being turning on its head to how he executed Sauron, was perfectly well done, and it was very tasteful for Sauron to do that to him. But and then we get the shot of him with Nenya, and it shows him as he was once before. And now I'm gonna bring up the goop. Because I saw Wizard Way Chris on Threads bring this up, that there's a possibility that the wine that he was drinking, that he had talked with Galadriel, was actually Sauron's blood. What do we think of that from a lore standpoint? Is that too far? Is that something that he might do? I don't know. I just saw that. I thought, that's interesting.
It doesn't do much for me in a lore perspective. I think it's a fun theory, but I don't really see why it would be.
There's nothing that warrants it either. Like,
I guess
just people imagining that this dude's drinking goop. If you're into that,
I mean, if he's drinking goop for the sake of drinking goop, I understand fully and endorse it. But
we support.
But if it's wine? Like, are we thinking that like he'll resurrect the same way Sauron did because he was drinking the blood, or
no? It's just the way it made him look. Like he turns into, because remember, he turns into the first Uruk, or the first orc, and he says, I can't remember in which episode, he said that Sauron gave, like, he wasn't always the way he was, and it gets referenced back when he has Nenya, and that's his fairer form.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting to see like what happened to make him look like that.
That would have been pre-Sauron. That would have been a Morgoth thing. And then also, I saw the same thread you're talking about that Wizard Way Chris said. I do think that they were referencing a hopeful, like, maybe he drank goop and now he's going to be a vampire kind of thing. And I think that was kind of where that theory was going, of like maybe they'll bring Adar back.
Okay. Well, I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I think he's been interesting, but then again, like what Kelly said, it's one less big bad that we need to deal with. And I felt like that was kind of my question mark coming into season 2, was we gotta eventually just have Sauron be our big bad, because that's what we're known, that's what we're used to, and that's what the story has been. That's what we've been told in the story, is that he's the big bad of this whole thing. So why do we have this guy here? Well, we got the answer, because he was able to get the army, and Sauron just basically assassinated him and took the army. So, but
yeah.
I agree with.
No, you go, man.
Oh, sorry. I agree with what Kelly had said about really, really appreciating the portrayal of orcs in this show, and in particular in this season. And at first, first season, I was kind of like, why do we need this Adar plotline? But in this season, I actually really loved it, because it brings up Tolkien's own qualms with like not knowing how his orcs would have been made, because he had these sort of moral problems with them being wholly evil. And so Adar being this stand-in for like, no, orcs deserve to have independence and orcs deserve to, you know, be respected, and he is here to like represent the orcs. Like, I think that was beautiful. And then we got to see that changing. Like, we got to see the orc Glug becoming disenchanted with Adar as he became more and more obsessed with just defeating Sauron. So it was like this entire season long, we got to see the potential for orcs, and then the downfall of like, no, unfortunately now they are going to become slaves to Sauron. And like, here's kind of the path of how it happened. I really actually liked it.
That independence and that future for them dies with Adar.
Yeah, it does.
Just to agree with both Miranda and Kelly, what they were just saying, the hatred that the orcs have for Sauron that we see, that like they truly hate him. It's not like they worship him or enjoy anything that he does. And this gives us a perfect example of why, because Sauron, like you both said, Sauron isn't the one that made the orcs, but he's the one that is still keeping them enslaved rather than propping them up and letting them be free people to make their own decisions.
Yep.
Well, we will miss Adar very much, but I'm very glad that he had the story that he did. We are going to pivot now back around to Sauron and Galadriel, who are having a little confrontation. I personally really enjoyed this whole sequence, particularly the part where Sauron starts shifting his forms and like becoming different things. First of all, it reminded me of Beren and Luthien when Sauron is being gripped by Huan, and he can't get out of his grip, so he's just like, what does it say? He shifted shape from wolf to serpent and from monster to his own accursed form, but he could not elude the grip of Huan without forsaking his body utterly. So I just felt like that was like, I don't know if they did it on purpose. I bet they did though, but I thought that was a very beautiful nod to that. Loved the acting though. Also, like when it's Galadriel against herself, essentially, that's amazing. And the way she like contorts her face to like, his facial expressions don't work on her face. But it's hilarious. And Celebrimbor too, they do a really good job at that. So that was amazing. Chase and Nick, did you enjoy that scene as well?
Did I?
Tell me about it. I
assume all the kids have gone to bed at this point. There has been a little bit of sexual nuance to Anatar pretty much the entire season, but this episode, just the imagery alone, I'm going to make it very graphic. The amount of people that Sauron penetrates in this episode is insane. And there is some imagery. Look, there's some imagery. There's some themes that are going on. I loved it. It was. I thought that the fight between Galadriel and Sauron was very sensual in nature, and I do think that I don't know if you guys saw the TikTok where they were showing them practicing and then kind of telling the story through that. I thought that was great, but I to really just repeat what you said, the shape shifting, and also God, we got Halbrand back. Hot as ever. But no, I like the fact that it went from Anatar. I'm going to screw up the order. Anatar to Halbrand to Celebrimbor, where she has to face Celebrimbor, because what she did at the end of season 1 is what led to the fall of Eregion and what led to Celebrimbor. She allowed Sauron to get close to Celebrimbor, and she has to face that, even though it's not himself there. It's Sauron making her face that, and then finally going back to her having to face herself and the things that she did in season 1. Into season 2, and I do think the end of this fight where Sauron takes Morgoth's crown, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, takes Morgoth's crown and pushes it into her, and then pushes again. And also, first of all, sorry,
he's stabbing her, dude.
It's a little. It's a little more than that. I look, as much as I don't want to see Galadriel get hurt, it is just like that final moment where like it's almost as though he's won, but she refuses to let him win in that moment. It's like you always think you're going to have the upper hand with me, and you think you have complete control and dominance over me, but I refuse to let you do that. And she steps backwards off of the ledge with Nenya, and it's just like there's so many moments of this episode. Like I can nitpick, even as someone who doesn't know the lore, I can nitpick things about this episode that like felt non-finale to me, but just I mean a lot of this stuff just like really blew me out of the water. And that fight scene, it was well choreographed, it was a beautiful story being told through the action, and I'm so, because my girlfriend and I are she hasn't seen it yet, and we're gonna watch it, and I'm so excited just to relive that moment. Sorry for that rambling.
It's okay. I
don't know how I follow that up after all the mentions of penetration. I don't know how where I go from here. I mean, what the thing that stuck out for me in that entire confrontation was the change that Galadriel went through from the start of it. Like the second that she realizes that Sauron is there when the orcs turn on Adar, you can see the fear on her face. But throughout that entire battle, as she basically, in a way, to your point, Chase, battles her own demons, having to go against Halbrand, having to go against Celebrimbor, you see her accept that she didn't go the right way at the start with Halbrand, and that almost, from my perspective, kind of empowers her to be more aggressive and bold in that fight with Sauron, to the point at the end where she is comfortable taking that step back, that she definitely has broken away from that control that Sauron had over to for a certain degree. But yeah, I'm sorry, I did not read that scene the same way as you, Chase.
I was very hot and bothered the entire time.
The way Chase got hot and bothered about that fight scene was how I was when Elendo pulled out Narsil. I was like, yes, let's go.
Can we just stop crossing the metaphors? We've got penetration, we've got pulling out. Can we just like stay in a PG lane?
I didn't even realize. I do apologize. Sorry.
Okay, friends. I think we are getting tired, so we are going to wrap this stream up. Although this is very funny. It is moving on to midnight my time here, so you know it's way past Callie's bedtime. I go to bed at like 9, so this is something. All right, so we kind of probably want to wrap up though with like Galadriel and reuniting, or no, we'll get back to that. Actually, Miranda wants to talk about the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
I'll make it so brief because we don't have time. But I love that was included, that Elrond specifically was desperate for them not to burn the records from Eregion. Like, for multiple reasons. Because that type of, like, knowledge was so important to Tolkien, because it's important to Elrond, and knowing that the actor Robert Aramayo is also a huge Tolkien fan, like, I thought that little inclusion of like that being his main focus of like, no, like you don't understand. This is history and we need to preserve this history. Like I thought it was really, really on theme for Tolkien, and I was glad that they included it.
It was definitely giving like season 1 Arondir, like not wanting the orcs to touch the tree, like the similar vibes kind of thing, which I also really liked.
Also with Arondir, I saw some people like, how's he okay? And I was like, I don't care.
Galadriel probably
thinking
helped
about
him
that
with
stuff.
Nenya. Like,
No, I would say Gil-galad, if anyone.
Oh,
Or maybe
Gil-galad.
Yeah, we see
that's
Gil-galad
true.
do healing,
Yeah,
attempt
that's
healing
true.
anyway. So
Yeah, agreed.
I think,
Which is like
and-
hilarious. Billy is like the most powerful of the 3 elven rings, and he like can't even do anything. I'm like, bro.
It's kind of
I
whack.
think- I think it is interesting. Like you mentioned the scene with the tree and Arondir in season 1, and then Elrond with the scrolls in season 2. And like I think it's also like just a good perspective. Like the elves do have a different perspective of time, and they understand that things like this tree or things like these works of Celebrimbor, not just because it was Celebrimbor, because they're so important to the world around them, that like these things are far more important than a singular life, where Elrond is like, no, like I am just a singular like being, like please, if you want to destroy something, destroy me, don't destroy that. That's far more important than me. And I think that does a great job of putting their perspective into our perspective. And I think it was a really cool moment, but also a really sad moment.
I mean, the elves, like their whole thing is preservation, right? Like that's kind of why Middle Earth makes them sad after a while, because they don't like the seasons. They want to live in Los Angeles where there's no seasons.
That's perfect.
Are the elves actually from LA? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
Valinor is actually just Los Angeles.
Oh, that's where they get the name the Valley. Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Valley, yep.
It's
all
canon,
check it out.
yeah.
It all checks out.
All right,
So
we're getting
you're
into
saying,
Valley
Max, is they
talk.
just
This
need
is-
like just wake up lights, right? So that they get rid of their seasonal affective disorder. Just those like wake up lights.
Yep.
Sorry.
Does, does Sindarin just eventually evolve into Valley Girl dialect? Is that how it works?
There we go.
Languages
Very fine.
evolve, you know. All right, so we're wrapping up the battle. Nick, you like we had some friends come in at the end of the battle. Sorry, not
So we get the fulfillment of Durin's promise with the dwarves showing up, which is an interesting twist to what happens, because in the sacking of Eregion and Ost-in-Ethel, it's actually Numenor that comes to save them. I'm actually pretty glad they didn't do that, because it wouldn't have made any sense, and it would have made the essentially army teleportation that they clearly thought was a good idea from the final season of Game of Thrones even worse. But I do think, because one of the criticisms I've heard is it feels like everything's happening at the same time, because we don't get any time references other than the occasional, like, oh, 2 weeks ago we saw this thing. But it seems like what happened in Khazad-dûm might have been happening in a shorter time span. And there had been more time for the dwarves to get there. They're also not that far away, which worked pretty well, I guess. But I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting change and a good nod to the actual friendship between the dwarves and the elves during the Second Age.
I like the dwarves showing up. I liked it a lot, actually, because
Me too.
I thought that's how it goes down after the siege. Amdir with the Lornad elf shows up with the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, and once that's done, the dwarves close their doors to everyone else. So I dug that. I mean, I wish there were more elves. It feels like there's very much lacking a lot of elves in Eregion. But
yeah, it was interesting how weak Eregion's defenses seemed. Like, I understand that they weren't like a military capital or anything like that, but we got to see some really epic individual elf moments, even like Galadriel's like essentially force jump up onto the top of the Stonehenge lookalike thing. That was cool. That felt very like of a piece of the kind of elf magic, as the hobbits would call it. I liked that.
Or went out to the guy with just taking out all of those people and then taking 2 arrows to the face.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
that's all Death Star Tolkien. Anticlimactic. You know? Get hit by a rock, get shot by a poison arrow. You know?
I mean, a moment for Ran. I don't know how you.
Rihanna, yeah, dude. That was like one of my favorite scenes, and so I love that so much.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I did like, for me, like I don't know what a finale is supposed to be, but I don't know, like it feels like more of just a continuation. Like we might have to wait a few years, but it feels like a good place for the next season to just kind of continue. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's not any major cliffhangers or anything like that. It's like we can just keep it going. And then
we know where it's going. Yeah.
With Adar being gone, which I did like the Adar thing. I do think that one of the things that this show has struggled with, in this episode in particular, and a lot with like army teleportation and stuff, which it's not the teleportation that bothers me. It's like it's hard to know the timeline and when things are happening.
Yes.
To get kind of get your bearings, you're just kind of all over the place, and like so the pacing can feel kind of off at times. And I think that is a result of 8 episodes and not 10. So you have to fit a bunch more in. And then also they have a lot of different stories happening at the same time that they're constantly having to kind of bounce between. So I think moving forward, if they can kind of, with that reduction in stories, maybe you can get more time to kind of develop investments into the individual characters and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that was like one of the feelings I walked away with after watching this. There was definitely some finale moments, but it definitely felt like a lot of this episode was setting up season 3 more than finishing off kind of the arcs that were going on. And I think a lot of it was done very well, but there was part of me that like, it's a season finale and I kind of wanted that like season finale hype. And I got it in those bits and pieces, but I do think it was like, you're ready for season 3, I bet, right? We got to set it up for you guys. And that was like, I'm not going to say it's a bad feeling, but it's not a good feeling for me. I'm not upset over it, but yeah, I kind of agree. It's like, what is the season finale? If it's just like, get ready for the next one. Like, I'm just waiting for the new episode now. So
it's interesting though, because I think in modern television, like post the Breaking Bads and the Mad Men's and the Peaky Blinders, where like those shows were so popular we knew they wouldn't get canceled. Now shows are getting canceled a lot more easily, so they have to have that like finale feeling. But we are pretty sure this is not going to get canceled just because of the amount of money that Amazon invested into it.
Yes.
And so we get a little bit more of that leg room to have it be like next time on rather than it's done-ish.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, saying it's not going to get canceled. I have been just, you know, talking with people that are not Lord of the Rings people. I like talking to a lot of my friends, a lot of coworkers. They're like, oh, have you watched that Rings of Power show? And I'm like, yeah, I have. And it's interesting because a lot of people that I wouldn't expect to be talking about this show are watching it and enjoying it, which is, you know, it's great they're watching it, but it's even better that they're having a really good time. Like, and again, a lot of these people they're like, they've seen the movies and they haven't read the books, and they're having a very, very good time with it. And I'm feeling the same way. Like, as someone who hasn't read the books, I enjoyed season 1 and I enjoyed season 2 a lot more because I just think Pete and I had talked about this on plenty of episodes beforehand. It's just the actors are getting more comfortable. The writers are getting more comfortable. We're no longer introducing things. We're just having more story to tell and more interesting things happening overall, which makes me very excited for season 3 overall.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
Any last thoughts on Elrond?
Love him.
He's so pretty.
I love that man.
Background that works.
I love that man.
Him begging for the books not to be burned was the hottest he's ever been.
That and last episode when he screams "destroy it" to that Ravager, I was like, oh.
I don't know, the whole him saying "death to our foes."
Oh,
yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was
and leading the charge right into the orcs as
that was
well.
pretty dope.
I saw
hair dirty Elrond just does something.
Yeah. I saw a TikTok, and forgive me if one of you posted it, but it was like, yeah, this man was so, I didn't think this man could get any hotter, and then his life fell apart, and it was even better.
Oh no!
The thing that makes
it gets so much worse for
so
Elrond.
sad is like he's probably one of the sweetest characters in the entire Legendarium, and Tolkien wrote him just not knowing a moment's peace.
Yeah,
Truly.
Always going down with this poor man.
He
my
got
parents
done kind of
abandoned me
dirty.
for space, and
My brother chose to grow old and die.
I feel like that sounds like he's almost the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He
Lord of the
is
Rings.
for
100%
sure.
Like just the sweetest,
my
the sweetest baby
God.
angel that never has a good day in his life.
Yeah, but at least Elrond eventually gets the woman he's pining after. So
For a little.
Galadriel, who he kissed, right?
Oh
that's exactly
no.
who it is.
No. Anyway, on that note, Callie.
Yeah. Oh, nobody wants to talk about that. Pete, would you like to not talk about that? No. Would you like to guide us through the ending of the episode?
Well,
Where we
a
ended
lot of
up?
people who aren't like very familiar, I guess, didn't realize that the valley that we're looking at is Rivendell. It's in Ladris. It's the location where, well, I don't think a lot of people know this about like Elrond, but this becomes like his almost seat of power as a herald to Gil-galad, and it's part of it's part of the realm of Lindon. And this is where we're going to see a lot of stuff go down. And I'm excited that they're like already establishing this, because not only does what they chose to do with the imagery look beautiful, and we're like, Tim pointed out, there's a river and a dell, and like literally was, I started cracking up, but it looks like Tolkien's own artwork. And that's what I love, those like callbacks. And it's like, for me, it's like on a personal level, I love Tolkien's artwork. I love the simplicity of it, as well as the complexity of, where you look at the Hobbit book cover and you have the whole encompassing world, or looking at something like Glaurung coming out of Nargothrond and you look at the sun in the sky and it looks like really wild. But anyways, I love how they had those kind of that is their reference of what Rivendell should look like, because we've only ever seen, I think it's Alan Lee's version of what we see in Peter Jackson's movies.
Yeah.
And I just never got the vibe that this was a place where, it was a haven and people came to rest, and, it was a home for others and like so forth, or it's a place where you'd go to like be healed. I didn't get the vibes ever from Peter Jackson's thing. But for the Rings of Power, it's a good turning point for them to really try to delve into this bit of a time jump where we could establish Rivendell. We have a more mature Elrond who witnessed the fall of Eregion. And of course, like we see Galadriel establish herself more as the character everyone knows from Lord of the Rings. So it's almost like a parallel of it being hopeful for the next season, as well as hopeful for the peoples of Middle Earth and the elves of Middle Earth. So I dug it. I was very much about it.
Totally agree.
I love the moment when Gil-galad held the sword up. That, like, in that moment, I was like, that is my Elven King right there. Like, that was a king moment.
Though, not a sword.
Pete and I were talking about that too, where we're like, where's his spear? He should have held up his spear. But I was like, maybe the spear just wouldn't have looked as cool being held aloft. Maybe it probably.
Yeah, we thought they looked like Tusken Raiders or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been hilarious. And
it doesn't have like a
all in once. Just do the Tusken Raider. No, but I will say this: just imagine Elendil standing there with Narsil also up in the air.
Well,
hopefully we see that, because they go to Rivendell and they tarry there for a few years, and then they head to the War of the Last Alliance. So
let's go.
Maybe.
Love the word tarry.
That's a great word. It is a great word. And then, I mean, we can't leave this scene without talking about Galadriel. She's very different now than she has been over the last 2 seasons. So does anyone have closing thoughts on that?
She finally gets it. I feel like she finally has kind of been like, this is where I've been. We kind of got a little bit of a taste of it when she was talking to Theo in season 1. She now, I feel like, is starting to kind of get to the place where I don't need to be in the heart of action. This might not be where I need to be. And that's what leads her to go to Lothlorien and be kind of this ambassador, kind of what we are known for seeing her in Lord of the Rings. And I think that's kind of something that they're kind of pushing her character more and more forward, and I think we're getting into that process more and more. But she's got a lot of stuff that just happened to her. So she's got to recover, but I think it's been a pretty good start from where she's come from.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I felt the word I had in my head, Lucas Simmons, is like much more centered. Like whereas season one, it was very chaotic, follow, chase the action. This season, you started to see her become a bit more zen almost, and a bit more sure of herself. And yeah, I mean that's what I remember of Galadriel and the part of the books that I read. And it was really it was a well-earned journey to see her get there. Like it didn't feel like it would just she had to get there, so they made her get there. It felt like that journey to get there felt very earned to me.
All right, I think that is a beautiful place to leave it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We will let the panel do their goodbyes and say where to find, and then just say whatever. I usually we're like, tell us your social media, but you literally tell us anything you want. I'm taking that rule off. So, Kelly, would you like to go?
Yes. Wait, what was it? Sorry, my dog really is taking over the stream now. We're just saying goodbye. You could find me on Instagram at the middle page. Not so much on TikTok anymore, but I think it's the middle dot page. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
we
you,
appreciate
Kelly,
it.
as always, for your thoughts.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye, Kelly.
All right, who's next?
Let's get this gravy train going.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Let's start with Max and then kind of maybe zigzag up.
Okay,
sure.
Are you gonna boot me out after I'm done?
No. Kelly had to go.
Kelly just had to go. So.
All right.
Yeah. No.
I don't know what you want me to say. It was a good season. It was a good finale. I had a good time here. I love talking to all y'all. Airplane Facts with Max. That's what I do.
And the dog was safe.
The dog was safe. I did want to point that out after the fall of Region. If you noticed in the Valley of Imladris, there is the dog that you saw earlier in the season, and the good boy is good.
Good
boy, good.
We can all breathe a sigh of relief about that. That's all I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to do it. Kaya, let's go with you next.
I mean, it was a great season. I enjoyed it. Definitely went uphill. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Kaya K with 2 Y's, TikTok, Kaya K with an S, and then on Threads. I'm pretty fucking funny on Threads. If you want to see all of my funny and unhinged posts and all my deep thoughts about this season, follow me on Threads, because goddamn,
and maybe some bashing of her ex. Bam.
Fuck my ex.
You're a top tier threader.
Thank you.
You're really threading the needle. Anyway.
Oh no. All right, Pete.
Peter.
I've done this so many times. My name's Pete. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast. Glad we got to talk about season 2. Hopefully we do it for season 3. You can find me on social media under Belmont or Pete. So bye.
Pete's over the shit.
We love Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Miranda.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It was really fun talking about this. You can find me on Instagram at xlibrismer. Tolkien Tuesdays every Tuesday. Come hang out and watch. I'm not as funny as Kaya on Threads, but I do have a Threads account also. But yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me.
Miranda, are you wearing an Isolation Man hat?
I am wearing an Isolation Man hat.
Pete, are you wearing an Isolation Man?
Yeah, are you wearing an Isolation Man shirt?
I'm
I
also
do
wearing a
it.
shirt.
I do it.
Oh man!
Rangers for life.
Hell yeah. We're so in sync.
Oh my god, it's almost like we're finishing each other's. God, I hate
What?
Sandwiches.
Oh my gosh, come on.
I love
guys.
sandwiches.
You're so close.
Nick.
Nick.
The pod one's Nick.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. I've learned a lot this season watching your guys' videos and following along as best I can. I definitely have more knowledge, and maybe once in a while I might actually be able to go to Luke and go, no, that's not true. I doubt that, but anyways.
Yeah, probably.
It might happen.
You could just make it up.
I could, and then make him go read a book for hours on end just to prove that I was wrong.
If you just say a name that is a bunch of syllables at a different place that is also a bunch of different syllables, you could probably just make him believe you're right.
I'm gonna pick a Welsh name, so there's a whole bunch of consonants, so he's not quite sure how it's spelled. Anyways, you can find me on most any social media at NDWiseGuy. I'd love talking about Star Wars, mainly the High Republic. So if you're a High Republic fan, please feel free to join. I am definitely not funny, so if you're looking for jokes, I am not the person to follow.
I don't know about that.
Seems
You're pretty
sus.
funny.
It's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of pressure,
seems
isn't
sus.
it? It's a lot of pressure. All right, Nick from Voices.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick, also Fornost42 on TikTok. I'm probably going to change my Instagram handle to that the more I think about it. That way I just have to say one thing. I'm on Instagram too. You can find me tagged and stuff. I also am one of 3 co-hosts that runs a podcast about the band Me Without You, which is like a post-hardcore band that we love a lot. Anyway, thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for making it. Chase.
Hi and bye. I'm Chase at Forward Into the Black, mostly on TikTok because it is spooky season. I'm probably going to hop back on my Twitch account and start playing Resident Evil again. Because I used to do a lot of Resident Evil speedrunning, and it's that time of year, so I'll probably do that a little bit more. But you can always find me talking about Star Wars on my TikTok account. That's where I'm most active. And you can find me with the Pod Ones. We'll be doing some scary movie reviews with our friend Bale soon. And then talking about Star Wars when Skeleton Crew comes out. But I do want to say, we talked about this yesterday and last week, that this is the last time we kind of get together. And I really want to thank both you, Callie, and Pete for basically every week for being here, taking the time. I know it's pretty easy for me being on the West Coast, but I know it gets really late for you guys. But you guys have been so insightful and just a pleasure to talk to this whole time. I'm so glad I follow both of you now and can't wait to interact with you guys more on social media. And I also want to thank, Nick, Miranda, Kelly, who left, and Nick, and Kaya as well. And then Max, thank you guys for taking the time again to be here. It means a lot to me, it means a lot to Luke, and it means a lot to everyone. And thanks to everyone that's been watching and commenting. This has been awesome because I think this is the most people we've had. I think I counted 60 people watching at one point. Yeah. So this has been great. This has been awesome. I had a blast watching this, and I had a blast talking about it every week. So thank you guys so much.
Justice for Damrod.
Yeah, justice for Damrod. Callie.
Hi, I'm Callie Cosplay on TikTok and Instagram and now Thread, thanks to Kaya. But I am also organizing the Voices of Arda. So if you're watching this on the Voices of Arda YouTube, you'll notice that on the page now we have a playlist for a bunch of other creators, such as these. A lot of these, I think, all of these fine people down here.
I still have to upload videos. Sorry.
Well, anyway, so they're releasing videos there on that YouTube, so you can kind of find everybody in one nice central location. So we've been working really hard on that and getting people together. So make sure to check that out. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm very proud of it.
Absolutely. If you're watching on Pod Ones and you're not subscribed to Voice of Arda, what the hell are you doing? Go subscribe to them. And also, I'd like to thank New Beta, Pete, Callie, everyone that's been on watch-alongs, discussions. You guys, at least for me, have made this experience. Tolkien's always been a second love behind Star Wars, but not gonna lie, Star Wars has fucking sucked lately. Just from a fan standpoint, community standpoint.
Thank you. I'm clear on that.
I'm sorry, but this has been such a great palate cleanser, and I'm so glad that I found a community that is so open to having conversations and if it weren't for New Beta and letting me into a live, I wouldn't be here right now. Yeah, that. But we will see you not next year, 2 years from now, apparently, when we do season 3. But for the final time, 1 ring to rule them all, and 2 podcasts to bind them.
Good night.